Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Well, this is a long and winding road that we come to with this particular bill, and other speakers have outlined elements of it that the Labor Party does support. We always support taxation bills that come to this House that make it easier for taxpayers, that add to the robustness of our taxation system. I want to echo my colleague Stuart Nash's view that after 8 years and a bit of grinding work in the gears of government, they finally said, yep, we'll adopt Labor's policy around flexible tax for business and small businesses. And, you know, all power to the government for seeing the light in that regard. I do want to focus my contribution, however, around the matter of foreign trusts, because this is the piece of legislation that does finally add a little transparency to the question of the operation of foreign trusts in New Zealand. But, Mr Speaker, that's about as good as it gets, because actually what today marks is yet another marker post in the tawdry display that we have seen from this government when it comes to New Zealand's reputation around the world for transparency and for doing the right thing. And I just want to read to you a couple of paragraphs from a report that came out in January this year called "Trust Us, New Zealand Can Hide Your Money," written by the Sarawak report. And it says this: time and again, investigators like the Sarawak report find themselves tracing large businesses linked to, for example, Malaysian politicians like Tayyip Muhammad, only to find the money disappearing behind New Zealand trusts. This was thrown into glaring perspective by the Panama Papers, which revealed how shadowy businessmen the world over were all choosing distant New Zealand to park their money. And one assumes such people are neither attracted by the weather nor the convenience of New Zealand's location. That's what people are writing about New Zealand today. These trusts, which are now we are seeing on a weekly basis being exposed since the Panama Papers came out, are about the super wealthy hiding their money, not meeting their tax obligations in their country of origins, and choosing New Zealand to hide their money. We've just seen the case that's still going through the New Zealand courts, in fact, around the 1MDB, the Malaysian Development Fund case, where the Low family are attempting through the court process to make certain arrangements for their trusts. We know on the public record, Mr Speaker, that when that family went looking for somewhere to hide their money, of all the places in the world they could choose, they chose Panama and New Zealand, the Cayman Islands and New Zealand. They went looking for a place that had a lax regime, where there was no transparency, and they came to New Zealand. And, Mr Speaker, we should all reflect on what that means. We should all reflect on the fact that when this was raised under when the Panama Papers came out, the Prime Minister's the then Prime Minister's very first reflexive decision was to say, oh, there's $24 million worth of money coming into lawyers and accountants here. Not what is New Zealand's reputation going to look like, not, heaven forbid, what's the right thing to do, what's the right thing morally to do. No, he passed it off. And in fact, he said on the 4th of April, 4th of April last year when this came out, New Zealand has full disclosure of information when it comes to foreign trusts. That's demonstrably not true, Mr Speaker, because today we're changing the law to create more disclosure on the issue of foreign trusts. But the Prime Minister's reflexive thing was to back Ken Whitney and all those tax accountants and lawyers and New Zealand trust lawyers who had made their money out of hiding the money of other people. And, Mr Speaker, that's just not right. It decreases the confidence of hard-working New Zealand taxpayers in the system, let alone our reputation internationally. But this goes further back, and I do want to acknowledge the officials of the IRD who helped the committee with this bill and have worked hard on this issue of foreign trust for some years. But if we go back nearly 3 years, Mr Speaker, we find the Inland Revenue Department saying to their minister, we have a problem with foreign trusts. We have a problem with the perception of New Zealand. They are being misused. We need to tighten the rules. And by November that year, the IRD officials had gone further and added to their work program legislation being drafted to tighten. In fact, as my colleague Stuart Nash said, they were looking at the option of dispensing with the whole regime, let alone just tightening it. IRD was doing that in 2014 in November. By early December, Ken Whitney was in writing to Todd McClay, who was the new minister, saying, we're very concerned you're going to be shutting down the foreign trust industry, and the Prime Minister has told me to write to you and told me that that's not going to happen. And Todd McClay, as a good new minister, said, the Prime Minister wants me to jump, I'm just going to find out how high. And they ditched that work program. And here we are in February 2017, finally starting to clean up the mess. Finally starting to do something about it. And New Zealand's reputation, as in the kinds of documents I've just been reading out before, has been trashed in the meantime because John Key preferred to protect his mates rather than the reputation of New Zealand, and I think that is shameful, Mr. Speaker. Foreign trusts are being misused every day, and if you just want to read it, that Mr. Mossack and Mr. Fonseca have finally found themselves being caught up with by authorities. There is a whole heap of New Zealand lawyers and accountants looking very closely at that because they have very close links with those organisations. We should have done better earlier. This gets us some of the way, Mr. Speaker. So now we'll actually be able to see who are the trustees, who are the settlers, who are the beneficiaries, where are they coming from. That at least that information will be available to the police and to DIA. But, Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we stand by what we said in the Select Committee and other readings. We believe we should aim for the highest possible levels of transparency. That means a searchable public register. We do it for charitable trusts. We do it for companies. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't shine the light on what is going on here and do that when it comes to foreign trusts. The other thing that's missing from this legislation as we pass it today with regard to the foreign trust issue is this was the moment for the government to bring in phase 2 of the anti-money laundering rules. This was the occasion to say we're going to clean it up completely. Lawyers, accountants and real estate agents, the people who do the most handling of these issues, are not included under our anti-money laundering rules. Casinos are, banks are, but not the very people involved at this end. The government knew that they could have done it. In fact, some ministers wanted to. And Stephen Joyce and John Key said, oh, it's off the front page, don't worry about it. Morality for sale one more time, Mr. Speaker, on this issue. We should today be fulfilling our obligations under the anti-money laundering rules, and we are not, and that is a huge gap in New Zealand's law. And the government undertook, Mr. Speaker, in this House, that we would have seen draft legislation to bring in stage 2 of the anti-money laundering rules late last year. They said we'd see it this year, middle of February, still nothing, going to be pushed out, won't be implemented before the election, and that's very helpful for those who've been lobbying against them to make sure that they don't come into force. This government is being dragged once again, kicking and screaming to finally do something, Mr. Speaker, and it's not good enough. New Zealand can do so much better than have a government that grudgingly has to do something, grudgingly has to do the right thing. I'm proud to be part of a party that put our hands up straight away when we saw what was happening with the Panama Papers and said, let's do something about this now. Let's protect New Zealand's reputation. But on the other side, they had to be dragged kicking and screaming once the focus group had told them just how bad it was getting for them. That's not good enough. New Zealand is a better country than one that allows people to hide their money and avoid their obligations overseas. We now have some changes here. That is a good thing. That will help. It will shed more light, but we should be doing more, Mr. Speaker. We should be playing our part on the world stage to stamp out this kind of corruption, not stand beside it, not say that $24 million worth of money going to lawyers and accountants justifies New Zealand being caught up in global corruption. Mr Speaker, people are writing about New Zealand as a place where the mega wealthy can hide their money and avoid their obligations. That's not the New Zealand I want to be proud of. I want to see us have a regime that is fully transparent and we do the right thing on the world stage. You'll get that with legislation from a Labor government. Sadly, we have not got it from National.